Omar's hands were trembling. The 6-year-old girl on his operating table had flatlined, and outside, exploding bombs were shattering the hospital windows. Just 3 years ago, working in his modern operating theater in Munich, he never imagined he would experience such a moment. This story will tell you how Omar went from his luxurious life in Europe to this point, and the ending, believe me, it made even me cry. Dr. Omar al-Rashid was living the life of his dreams. In the autumn of 2019, at 28 years old, he worked as a pediatric heart surgery specialist at one of Germany's most prestigious hospitals, the Munich Heart Center. Every morning, driving his BMW to the clinic, he thought about his €150,000 annual salary, his prestigious position, and his perfect life. Living in a luxury apartment in the Schwabing district, wearing his expensive Swiss watch, he smiled proudly as he passed by success photos in the hospital corridors. His colleagues greeted him with respect, and patient families looked at him with grateful eyes. Everything was perfect. Omar's life was like a dream, but the roots of this dream lay much deeper, in much more painful soil. Omar's story actually began in 1991, with a little boy born in the narrow, dusty streets of Gaza. The al-Rashid family was a modest family. His father Ahmed ran a small grocery store, while his mother Fatma took care of 3 children at home. Omar was the youngest and always different. Until age 8, he had a normal childhood. He played football in the streets, went to school, ran around with his friends, but in the summer of 1999, everything changed. Omar began to experience frequent shortness of breath. He got tired climbing stairs, had to suddenly stop while playing games. His family initially thought it was part of growing up, but when Omar's lips turned blue, his father Ahmed panicked and took him to the best hospital in Gaza. After examining him, the doctor looked at Ahmed's face and shook his head. "Your son has a serious problem with his heart valve. There's nothing we can do here. You need to take him to Israel." Ahmed's world collapsed. Israel, the country they saw as their enemy, was now their son's only hope. A few weeks later, Omar found himself at Schneider Children's Hospital in Tel Aviv. An Israeli heart surgeon named Dr. David Goldstein examined Omar. Little Omar would never forget the doctor's kind smile and gentle voice. "Don't worry, little man," Dr. Goldstein had said in Hebrew. Omar didn't understand, but he felt confidence from his tone. "We're going to make you better." The surgery lasted 6 hours. Ahmed and Fatma waited in the corridor, praying. When Omar came out of surgery, he felt for the first time that he wasn't struggling to breathe. His heart was beating strong and steady. That night, lying in his hospital bed, Omar remembered Dr. Goldstein's hands. Those hands had saved him from death. That night, 8-year-old Omar made a promise. "One day I will save children too, just like the doctor uncle." Omar's school life completely changed after this incident. He no longer thought only about football and games. He sat in the front row in science classes, constantly asking teachers questions. How does the heart work? Why does it stop? How is it repaired? During high school, Omar's goal became clear. He would study medicine, but getting quality medical education in Gaza was nearly impossible. He began researching international scholarships. In the late hours of the night, he sat in internet cafes examining universities in Germany. In 2009, the second miracle of Omar's life happened. He won a DAD scholarship. At 18, he flew to Berlin with 2 suitcases, leaving behind his family, friends, everything he knew. When saying goodbye at the airport, his father Ahmed's eyes were filled with tears. "Go, my son," he had said. "And remember, you're not just carrying yourself, but our dreams too." Berlin was cold, not just the weather, but the people too. When Omar started medical education at Humboldt University, he felt completely foreign. His German was weak, cultural differences were difficult, his financial situation was limited. The first year was terrible. Omar cried himself to sleep every night. Sitting alone in his dorm room, he missed Gaza, his mother's food, the streets where he played football with his friends. Several times he wanted to pack his bags, but every time he remembered Dr. Goldstein's hands and the promise that 8-year-old boy had made. Omar studied medical books at 3 a.m. while his roommate returned from parties. On weekends, while everyone was having fun, Omar studied in the library. He started volunteering at hospitals to improve his German. Gradually, he began to adapt. In his second year, his grades improved. In his third year, he began to catch professors' attention. In his fourth year, his scholarship amount was increased. Omar was no longer just surviving, he was shining. Graduating medical school as an honor student, Omar decided to specialize in pediatric cardiology. He was accepted to the Heart Center in Munich. There he met Professor Dr. Muller, who became his mentor. Omar, Professor Muller had said one day, "You're not just talented, you do this job with your heart. I can feel that difference." Omar's first heart surgery took place in 2017. It was a 5-year-old boy named Max. He had exactly the same problem Omar had experienced. The surgery was successful. When Omar came out of the operating room, his eyes were filled with tears. That night he called his family. "Mum," he said to Fatma, "today I saved a child, just like they saved me." Fatma's tears could be felt through the phone line. "I'm proud of you, my son. Your father is too." In early 2020, Omar met Layla at a Palestinian cultural event in Berlin. Layla was also the child of a Palestinian immigrant family, but she was born and raised in Berlin. She was an elementary school teacher and loved teaching Arabic to children. It wasn't love at first sight, but they gradually formed a bond with each other. Layla understood the feeling of not being able to find her place inside Omar. Omar also understood Layla's desire to connect with her roots. "Omar," Layla had said one day, "you always tell me I will go back one day. I just laugh, because you have so much work to do here." Omar had just smiled at the time, but a voice inside always whispered Gaza. In the summer of 2022, Omar and Layla had a small but happy wedding. There was the Palestinian community in Berlin, a few German colleagues, and loved ones from both families. Omar's family connected via video call from Gaza. They spent their honeymoon in Italy, sitting across from the Trevi Fountain in Rome. Omar told Layla, "Now we'll build our life here. Germany will be our home." Layla was happy. Omar seemed to be too. They moved to a beautiful house in Munich. Omar's salary had increased. He had a respectable position. Everything was perfect. But at the end of 2022, a strange restlessness began in Omar. He would wake up in the darkness of night, thinking about Gaza. He began following the news more frequently. In January 2023, a video came to Omar's phone from his cousin Mahmoud. The video showed his 7-year-old daughter Aya. The little girl was struggling to breathe. Her lips were turning blue. "Brother Omar," Mahmoud was saying in the video, "Aya has a problem with her heart valve. Doctors say she needs surgery, but there's no one here who can do it. If you were here." The video had ended, but Omar stared at the screen for hours. He had seen himself in Aya's eyes. The 8-year-old Omar, he couldn't sleep that night. He didn't say anything to Layla, but storms were raging in his head. The next day when he went to the hospital, everything looked different. Modern operating room, high-tech devices, safe environment. And in Gaza, Aya was struggling to breathe. A week later, Omar told Layla, "I need to go back." Layla first thought it was a joke. Then when she realized Omar was serious, she was shocked. "What do you mean go back? Omar, we have our life here, our home, our jobs. Aya is dying, Layla, and there are hundreds of children like Aya." Their first fight happened that night. Layla cried. Omar cried. But Omar's decision wasn't changing. 3 months, Layla said. "Just 3 months. Then you'll come back, right?" Omar replied, 3 months. But they both knew this promise wasn't real. His colleagues at the hospital were shocked. Prof. Mueller talked to Omar in his office. "Have you gone crazy, Omar? You're doing great work here. Your career is ahead." "Professor," Omar said, "what did you tell me during my first surgery? You said I do this job with your heart. My heart is now in Gaza." Prof. Mueller shook his head. 3 months, right? You'll come back in 3 months. Omar didn't answer. The farewells were painful. The nurses he had worked with for 6 years cried. Families of children Omar had saved came to thank him. The hardest farewell was at the airport. Layla tried to change his mind until the last minute. "Omar, please. This decision will destroy us." Omar kissed Layla. "I love you, but I have to do this." The day he returned to Gaza after 12 years, Omar was shocked. The city he remembered was gone. Everything seemed smaller, more complicated, more hopeless. When he went to Al-Shifa hospital, he saw the situation. Old devices, broken equipment, tired doctors. While 2 to 3 surgeries were performed daily in Omar's operating room in Munich, here 20-30 children were waiting in line. On his first day, he worked 14 hours. He saw as many patients as he would operate on in a day in Munich. His hands had forgotten the gloves from Germany. The rough latex gloves here bothered him. He operated on Aya. It was successful. After the surgery, the little girl smiled at Omar. "Thank you, Dr. Uncle," she said. At that moment, Omar remembered his 8-year-old self. Dr. Goldstein's face. The cycle was complete. The first months were difficult, but Omar began to adapt. Layla called every day. "When are you coming back?" she would ask. Omar would say soon, but they both knew this wasn't true. Power outages made surgeries difficult. There was a shortage of medicine. Equipment constantly broke down. Omar began buying supplies with his own money. His colleagues initially approached him with suspicion. Some mocked him as the prince from Europe. But when they saw Omar's work ethic, they began to respect him. Hospital director Dr. Khalil had asked Omar one day, "You'll stay here, won't you?" Omar had said, "I will stay." It was the first time he said these words, and he was surprised at himself. In the final months of 2023, the situation began to deteriorate. Political tension was increasing. Omar's messages to Layla changed. "I'm staying here, Layla. Forgive me." Layla hadn't responded. Omar now only lived at the hospital. He didn't go home, just worked, slept, worked. The guilt inside him was growing. He had abandoned Layla, but he couldn't abandon the children in Gaza either. One night he called Layla crying.
"I miss you so much," he said. "I miss you too, Omar, but I don't recognize you anymore." October 7th, 2023. Omar had gone to the hospital as usual that morning, preparing for surgeries as always. Around noon, terrible news began to arrive. The hospital turned to chaos. The wounded began to arrive. First a few people, then dozens, then hundreds. Omar worked 36 hours straight. Even when his hands began to tremble, he didn't stop. Children, adults, elderly, all in pain, all waiting for help. Sometime that night, Omar went to the bathroom and cried there for 10 minutes. Then he wiped his face and returned to the operating room. The following days turned to hell. The hospital became a target. The first bomb fell in the hospital garden. Windows cracked. People ran in panic. At that moment, Omar made a decision. When other doctors began to go to safe places with their families, Omar stayed. "Where are you going?" asked Dr. Khalil. "I'm not going," Omar said. "The children are here." Dr. Khalil put his hand on Omar's shoulder. "Are you crazy? You'll die here." "Maybe," Omar said, "but I'll die in a way worth living." November 23rd, 2023, midnight. Omar was on duty at the hospital. Outside, the sounds of bombardment never stopped. The electricity was out. The generator was running. At that time, 6-year-old Noor was brought in. Shrapnel had lodged near her heart. Her heart was about to stop. Omar examined her. Surgery was needed. Immediately. "Doctor," said Nurse Amira, "the generator is running out of fuel." And outside, the sounds of bombs were getting closer. Omar looked into Noor's eyes. In those eyes, he saw himself. He saw Aya. He saw hundreds of children he had saved. "We're starting surgery," he said. That moment came. Omar's hands were trembling. The 6-year-old Noor on his table had flatlined. And outside, exploding bombs were shattering the hospital windows. Omar fought for 3 hours. Noor's heart, Omar's hands, the sound of bombs, the generator's last breaths. The operating room lights went out 3 times. Omar continued with a flashlight. At 3:30 a.m., the miracle happened. Noor's heart began to beat. Strong, steady beats. Omar cried. Nurse Amira cried. Everyone in the operating room cried. "We did it," Omar said. "We did it." When the surgery was over, Omar tried to leave the hospital, but the building had taken too much damage. The stairs had collapsed. Omar was trapped on the upper floor. There was one last charge on his phone. He called Layla. "Omar, is that you, Omar? Layla, I love you so much. Omar, please come back now. Please don't leave me. Layla, today I saved a girl. Her name is Noor. She's alive now. I know I'm in the right place. Omar, I can't hear you. Omar." The line went dead. Omar's phone died. 6 months later, Layla is still in Berlin, still waiting. Every day she hopes for news from Omar, but no news comes. Noor is alive, growing up with a healthy heart. Her sister tells her the story of Uncle Omar. Dr. Khalil left Omar's desk as it was. "Maybe he'll come back one day," he says. Omar's WhatsApp status message is still active. Being a doctor is not just about healing, it's about giving hope. Prof. Mueller in Munich always says this when talking about Omar. He was a real doctor. He followed his heart. Sometimes Layla calls Omar's number. When she hears the number you have dialed is currently unreachable, tears flow down her face. But the world is very big, very complex, and every day new Omars are born, following their dreams, carrying others' hope, caught between love and anger. Omar's story may have ended, but the trace he left, the hearts he saved, the hope he gave continues. This story is inspired by true events. There are thousands of Omars in the world. Let's not forget them, because sometimes just one heart beating can change the meaning of the entire world. And Noor is still alive, with a healthy heart, with hope, full of life.